Welcome to I'm Too Busy, an interview-based show hosted by a talented makeup artist, Christina Flach. Christina offers viewers a unique blend of personal stories, inspiring journeys, and practical beauty tips. Join the conversation as Christina features successful individuals from various industries who share their insights on health, wellness, makeup, and the keys to their success. So now, please welcome the host of I'm Too Busy, Christina Flach.
Welcome to I'm Too Busy TV, where we share stories of dynamic leaders who share their time and impact. Today, we're joined by Rhonda Kich. She's a pioneering force in financial literacy and accessibility. As the founder and CEO of EquityFirst, she's transformed countless lives with her financial knowledge and creating pathways to create credit access for those who need it most. From a young real estate investor to a nationwide keynote speaker, Rhonda's journey shows us how being too busy building others up can create lasting change. Hello, Rhonda. How are you?
Hey girl, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm
Second
doing
time today that we get to be
great.
together.
I'm gonna miss you after this.
I know. We're going to have to do another show. I was on Rhonda's show this morning. It was really fun.
Well,
All right. Are you ready? How is today?
well, so far so good. Excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I know you and I both understand the importance of sharing our platforms, especially for our listeners and the people that are really looking to resonate with somebody or to see if there's a story or a nugget, right, that's out there that somebody can kind of take some knowledge with that.
I mean, I think everyone has bits of nuggets, but you have a basket full. So I'm so excited to start. You ready?
Sure, let's do it.
So, your journey began in real estate investment at a really young age. What experiences during those early years sparked your passion for financial literacy?
So, it's a great story. So, I actually have always been a standalone entrepreneur. And when I was in high school, I actually had my first experience with real money. And so by the time I was 18, I actually opened up my first corporation and stashed away the money that I had to then purchase my first home. And I was 23 in a very male dominated industry. And having anybody take you seriously at that time was very difficult because just to kind of date ourselves a little bit, that was 28, almost 29 years ago. So there's a lot of lessons that I've learned along the way. But as we've progressed over time, things have become more natural. So when I first got started in the real estate industry, 23 years old, did not have the same life experiences as I do right now. And we were in a very male dominated industry where, unfortunately, being taken seriously was a challenge within itself.
That's remarkable. How isn't it incredible how when you started, what your experience was and now, and when you look back, how do you see that girl?
You know, it's so funny because when I go on shows, people say to me, or even just recently, I was in Georgia for an event and somebody said, "What lessons would you give your younger self? And would you change anything?" And, I'm sure you could agree that every time you've had a life opportunity, those opportunities were lessons, whether they were good or bad, you learned from them. So I actually love my story. It's empowering to me, and I love to share it with others. And it's a story of perseverance and tragedy and growing up. Really, a lot of it is growing up. I was 23, purchased my first home. I had gotten pregnant. I had my first son. And then I became quickly a single mom. And so you have all of these things that are happening at the same time, and you could either be a victim or you can be a valor. And, my pathway was towards leadership, and I had a strong family connection. So I was okay with taking risks because I have the support of my family. I was okay being a young single mom because I knew I chose that path and I wanted to be a mother, right? So you kind
I
of look
love that.
how things progress. And I wouldn't change a thing. And every step of the way, you learn lessons. And especially in business, you learn what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And again, from 28 years ago to today, my biggest lesson I tell anybody is, in today's day and age, if you're a business owner, as much as social media is your friend, it could also become your enemy. So you always want to just be very cautious about what you post, because people are viewing you for who you are, which is why my social media doesn't tell you anything about what I do and who I'm with. Very limitedly, right? Some
Yeah,
things you need.
that's very wise.
Some
That's
things you
very
keep.
wise. So, was there ever a time when you were a single mom and you bought your first house that you got into a financial situation that scared the crap out of you?
I think for me, I was married and I was living, in our marital residence when we separated. And I woke up one day and I just was like, "Oh my God, I'm alone and I have daycare." My story was that I had gotten pregnant, and we're way over it now, so I can talk about it openly. But I was
Hmm.
married to somebody I went to high school with. We were very compatible. We did a lot of things together, and we had tragedy in our home. There was several deaths in the family on my husband's side at the time, and it became very distant. So because of these life events, he chose a different path. Instead of staying with the family, he veered to say, "I need to go experience life," because these deaths scared him. So I had then gotten pregnant again with my second child, and he basically said, "Look, I am not in a mental capacity and state to want to be a father to our first child," because he was so emotionally devastated that for every step and every word and every experience that our son had, his mother was not there to share it. So he was angry. So when I got pregnant again, it was challenging. And, he said, "I don't think I can do it." And I said, "You don't need to, I'll do it on my own." So we separated. So we're all one big
Oh my
happy
gosh.
family. But
Right.
when I had that realization of, okay, I'm really alone, you go into like this fight or flight mode. So it's just, at that time, and even now when I'm coaching clients, it's being very aware of your decisions and keeping an open mind for opportunity, and not being afraid to sometimes ask for help. There were definitely times that I was afraid, but again, I did have a strong support system. My mother, my sister, they were not necessarily a financial support, but they were a support in allowing me to still be myself and work. And if I needed daycare, and then there was time for me, right? I had a husband that did not want to take responsibility for the children. And I was young, I was 23 and 25 when I had these babies. I still needed to be me. So I had that support, which was nice.
Wow, that's remarkable. So, when did things kind of calm down for you? Like, how long did it take after he left and you had that second child by yourself? That must have been really terrifying.
I've always been a worker. I was never afraid to not work. So I am also a money hoarder. So I am the person.
What a great problem to have.
So, for me, I, knew the value of having good credit. So if I needed to rely on credit temporarily, I could. But the good news for me is that I knew that if I could just stay focused. I'm a girl that was about, at the time, reverse engineering. This was my mortgage. This was my car payment. This is my daycare. These are my groceries. What is the minimum amount that I need to make a month? And that was where I based my minimum value. And then I went out and I crushed it. I think I was always in the financial space. I was in the financing and in the mortgage industry. And by just being the authentic self that I could be and taking time to listen and problem solve, my pipeline, thankfully, was always very healthy. And what I did, and how I really launched into, my consulting company that I've now had for over 20 years is I focused on working with other people that had challenges. So by finding families that wanted to purchase a home or refinance a home, but maybe they had a credit challenge or a financial challenge, that became my niche. So where everybody else wanted an easy ticket, they wanted those clean A borrowers. I was more focused on what value can I add to the person and let me establish the relationship. So I always had a very healthy pipeline of people that were committed to working with me, and I was committed in seeing the challenge through. So thankfully, I did well. So it was. I never want to say I was poor, but I did well, and I was able to keep myself out of debt for a majority of that time that I was single.
Wow. So how did you get to that place where you figured to find your niche? Did someone guide you, or what advice did someone give you that you figured that out, or did you just innately figure that out on your own?
So, so what happens is, I think when you are an entrepreneur, you have this vision, right? Like, I don't do no, right? You probably don't do no. It's not
No,
no,
I don't know what that means. It's
right?
yes until they're like, go away. I'm going to get a,
Yeah.
you're a stalker.
So for me, what happened was that I was working in the mortgage industry. It was very male dominated. They didn't really know how to work with me because I was a little different. I was young, I was energetic. I had life experience at a young age. I was educated. I put myself through college. So, all of these things. So my focus was, I walked into into this industry, and they were like, we don't know what to do with you. Maybe you're not the right fit. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you just tell me no? Oh, no, no, no.
No.
Game challenge accepted. And to this day, I still have relationships with those people, that were from the industry. So I needed to figure out what could I do that was different than what everybody else was doing. And what everybody else was doing, they were building relationships, they were networking, but that was very challenging for me because I was 23, 100 pounds soaking wet, and a single mom with 2 kids, right? So I'm almost like a little bit of a mess, when you look at that. So I decided to, again, it didn't happen overnight, but what happened was I had a few referrals that came in that had some challenges, and I enjoyed problem solving for those clients, and I did really well. And then other people within the organization I worked for said, wow, how did you make that happen? I have a client. Can you help them? I have a client that has a problem. Can you help that client? And it was about a year or two of working with my clients and other clients that had some financial and or credit challenges. And a girlfriend of mine at the time, her name was Karen, turned around and said, God, I love what you're doing. Can I go out and sell for you? And I didn't even understand at the time what that meant. I said, I do mortgages. What do you mean? Can you sell for me? She goes, I love that you're problem solving. And she said to me, she goes, I'm home. I'm not doing anything. Who's a good connection for you? And I said, well, bankruptcy attorneys, they have a lot of clients that have challenges. And we started going out and networking to centers of influence that had the exact client I was looking for. And then again, it just continued to build and to build. And I was not afraid to tell somebody that I didn't have the answer. But what I did promise them was that together we would find the solution. And I couldn't tell them how long it would take, but I was willing to invest my time if they were willing to believe in the fact that I'd get to the bottom of it.
Wow. So Equity First has grown significantly since you started it in 2004. Can you
Yeah.
share a pivotal moment that shaped your approach to helping clients build better financial futures?
I think for me, in the 2005, 2006 time, that is when the housing market really crashed. And a lot of people were in foreclosure and they were losing homes. And for me, the biggest moment was that we woke up to this housing crisis, and there was so much misinformation that was out there. And there were so many people that were afraid of the red tape to tell somebody how to navigate getting assistance. So what we did was we went out, and during that period of time, it was known as like the loan modification era, right? To where, I just, I'm going to default on my mortgage, and then they have to give me a lower rate. And so certain people did things strategically, but there were a lot of people that were victims of bad advice. And honestly, during that period of time, let's just say a few years prior, if you wanted to buy a home and you had a halfway decent credit score and a pulse, you were approved. There was very little documentation to support whether or not you had the financial capability and responsibility of covering that mortgage. So when the housing market collapsed, it put me in a position to really want to have a voice and help those people navigate how the system of loan modification worked. And what I did was, because I already had several years dealing in loss mitigation and restructuring of mortgages because of, helping clients in financial distress, I created a train the trainer program, and I worked with attorneys nationwide teaching their staff how to successfully consult with, analyze, and back into the financials that were required in order for somebody to have an approval.
Wow. We are going to come right. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We have to take a commercial break. We'll be right back, and we're going to finish all of this. This is fascinating.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to I'm Too Busy. We're chatting with Rhonda Kich, and I find this subject fascinating. Rhonda, you're known for developing educational programs and workshops. What's the most common financial misconception that you encounter, and how do you address it?
Oh, geez. So I think one of the things that I hear a lot is that, and it's really not about finances, it's about personal credit. And one of the things that I always want people to understand where it comes to personal credit is that your credit is not based on how large of a line of credit you have. For example, if you have a Capital One credit card for $100, or you have a Capital One credit card for $50,000, that does not mean, how do I want to say it? So what happens is that you can have the credit card for $100 and have a 700 or a very high credit score. Credit is not discriminatory based upon your credit line. So a lot of times when I speak to somebody, they'll say, "Oh, my credit's no good." And I'll ask them, "Why do you say that?" And they say, "Well, because I have a small credit line. I only have a Capital One card for $300, or I only have, 2 credit cards and they're small." And so one of the big things that I try to explain is that credit is not discriminatory based upon your limit that you have. Otherwise, the rich would have good credit and the poor would have bad credit.
So
So
they're
that's
not aware that there's credit scores?
they're aware of the credit scores, but I think that they automatically, a lot of times, make an assumption that they actually don't have good credit because they have small credit lines. They feel that they may not be worthy because of the credit line amount.
And so how do
So
you guide them to get these lines of credit increased?
So to get the credit line increased, what I normally will do is look to see how long they've had a credit line for. And then most people don't realize they can actually use the credit, pay it back, use the credit, pay it back, and then just call the companies direct and ask for a credit line increase. So it doesn't happen overnight. They will do some additional income verification. But if you stay consistent, your credit limits will increase if you need them, right? So, if you need it, great. If you don't, that's okay. That's okay too. But that's one of the big ones. We talk to people all the time, and they're under the assumption that if their income is low, that means their credit score is low. And it's not. It doesn't work that way. So that's one of the big ones. I think one of the other ones is that actually I love to speak about. And I have clients all the time. I actually just had a client yesterday, this exact topic. "Rhonda, I'm inundated with debt and I think I have to file bankruptcy." And I'll say, "Well, why do you think that? And what have you done to, put yourself in a better position?" And people don't realize that if they have a financial challenge, there's a death, a divorce, a disability, there's, some sort of a financial challenge or hiccup, most people have analysis paralysis and they are not willing to face their financial problems. So it's easier for them to hide behind it. However, if you contact your creditors and explain to them what you have going on, they all have hardship programs, and some of them have what's known as a moratorium, which means if your hardship is temporary, they can put you into a temporary restructure program, which will free you up without ever having to go into default with any of your credit.
Oh, that's remarkable.
Mm.
That is life-changing for so many people, especially right now with the economy the way it is. You have partnerships with nonprofits like Angels of Long Island and Celebrity Sports Entertainment's philanthropy division.
Yeah.
Has that helped? Has that helped amplify your mission?
Well, I think first of all, you have to know why you're getting involved in philanthropy. You have to figure out, are you doing it for the cause or are you doing it for yourself? So some people want to attach themselves to not-for-profits because it is, how do I want to say this without it coming out the wrong way? They just want to be part of maybe that clique, but they don't have an
Uh-huh.
emotional attachment. So using Angels of Long Island, for example, I live on Long Island, and Angels of Long Island has been around now for probably about 7 or 8 years. They are a grassroots organization that helps the underserved communities. They have a thrift store, they do a food pantry, they do everything for every time of the year, whether it is for backpacks going back to school, it could be for the holidays, Thanksgiving time, giving out turkeys. They are a real grassroots organization that gives back. When I'm there on the front line, I will literally be on the front line packing backpacks, handing out food to people that have food insecurity. It's not about being able to say that you've cut a check. Sometimes it's about being able to just be part of the experience itself, and it makes you feel good. I feel like a lot of times when we talk about philanthropy, it's easy to write a check if you're in the financial position to do so, but that's wonderful, but there's something to be said for actually being a true volunteer. So with my time, I look for causes that I believe in and organizations that I believe are supporting our communities the way that I would support the community if I was in a similar position. So I think that a lot of times people just want a seat at the table. I'm the girl who actually wants to be I want to be behind the scenes. I don't need to be front and center. I just want to give where I can give.
I agree. I have a similar there's a school in Oakland, California called Northern Light that I have a fund set up for my son, Bo, that passed away, and for my husband, Ken Flach, that passed away. And all my kids have helped. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of as a mother is how my kids have tirelessly donated their time and efforts to help others. And I think, just like you said, it's so easy to write a check, but the experience for my children having participated in these situations is life-changing to them. And those are the kind of people I want them to be, not just check writers. I mean, I obviously, yes, write the check, but you can do both. It's not one or the other.
And I will tell you this, I founded a event, I'll say it like that, called Holiday Dreams, and we're over 10 years strong. We help over 500 families a year. And my children, I have 5 boys, and my kids every year are on the front line. And I could remember each one of them having their own experiences saying, "Ma, that person needs help. They're in my school." Because people don't understand also that it doesn't matter where you live. And the more money you make, the faster you fall, right? A lot of people, it doesn't matter where you live. You could be one paycheck away from, being in a financial circumstance. So my kids have grown up really appreciating and understanding that it's nice to have nice things, but don't judge people by that, because at any point in time, it can be stripped from you. Right?
I completely agree.
Be humble. Goes a lot further.
It's a much more attractive quality. As someone who's too busy making finance more accessible, what time management strategies have helped you balance running EquityFirst while maintaining an active speaking schedule on top of being a mom and all your philanthropic efforts?
I have one word: delegation. Maybe I have 2 words: crazy. It's my normal. It's my normal. I think my brain just functions like in a certain way. So I actually do really well in chaos where other people melt down. I think that when things are crazy for me, I actually get more creative. And the more creative one gets, again, how do I want to say that? I just say it's my level of crazy. People will say, "You have 5 kids, you're crazy. You have multiple businesses, you're crazy." And my response is like, am I? It's my normal. So I think if you embrace what your normal is, you don't need validation from anybody else. The older I get, the more I am okay with having a small circle, not sharing too much, and just having my family. I'm fine with that. Because for me, it's my normal. I created it and I live by it. I do try to create as much work-life balance as possible. And I also try to take my family with me whenever it's an option when I am traveling, or I take my girlfriends, right? So it's one or the other.
I find I take offense to the word crazy because I get told the same. No, because I completely agree with you. You and I are from the same tribe on so many levels with our animals and our work and everything. But crazy to me is something that's someone that's unstable. We clearly aren't, or we couldn't handle all this chaos. But it is our normal. And I think I like the way our lives are like this. I think that it doesn't feel crazy. It doesn't feel chaotic. It feels exciting. To me, that's living life, being able to do all these things. So what do you think financial literacy plays in creating equitable opportunities for entrepreneurs?
I think there are plenty of people who are entrepreneurs, but it doesn't make them good business decision makers. So you could be really skilled at being a roofer or a carpenter, or you could be an entrepreneur and be a creator, and you may have all these amazing ideas, but if you don't have financial foundation, a lot of times you will have a failure to launch. So we speak to business owners every day, and their challenge is that they're chasing the dollar because they're so close. They're so close. And the big thing that I hear over and over again is that they didn't understand how important finance was to their overall decision making when building their business, right? So again, you could have somebody who's fantastic and skilled in their space. They could be a visionary, a creative. It doesn't matter what it is. if you don't have the foundations of understanding a budget, keeping money to the side, maybe you have a spouse that can support your business ideas, right? So it doesn't always have to be about you flying solo, but you do need to have a good basis of financial literacy and understanding about the balance of having lines of credit and when payments are due and access to capital. And a lot of entrepreneurs, unfortunately, just don't. They dive in, which I love, but they don't dive in with a financial foundation.
Can you share with me a success story that exemplifies EquityFirst's impact on someone's financial journey?
Oh my God. You want a new one or just like a favorite one?
Your favorite one?
I think my favorite ones were during the time, and these were the most like ones where you're like, you cry with the client, if that makes sense. Like
Oh,
you become
yeah.
so emotionally involved. When we were working with clients that had financial challenges and they were losing their homes, they were given mortgages that they never qualified for, and they were raising their families in a house. And you could picture, just kind of envision you're speaking with a client and they're talking about how they painted those walls and they put up that wallpaper and that bathroom. So they're creating these memories, right? And before you know it, they're being stripped, and they want this home ownership and they're being stripped of those opportunities, and they built debt and they have all these things. What we did was we came in and we restructured not just their mortgages, but during the period of time that their mortgage was in default. If you said to me, I could afford $4,000 a month, but you didn't have, but your mortgage was $5,000 a month. No matter what you did, you were $1,000 a month short. So clients would go into default. But you said to me, Rhonda, I could afford $4,000. So I immediately said to you, Christina, we're going to create a kitty with $4,000 a month. And before you know it, you had all these other accounts and collections and charge-offs and late payments. But loan modification was a process. It could be 6 months. It could be 8 months. So if you think about what that $4,000 a month, I force-fed you into saving that money. And every month, what was happening is we were building your kitty. And by the time you got that approval in the mail that said, congratulations, you're ready to pay your mortgage again, not only were you in a position because you had muscle memory, and I say it like that, you were conditioned, it became routine to get back into putting money away, but the clients would exit our program with no debt because they then had that kitty that they never would have had. Because when clients stopped paying their mortgage, they started buying flat screen TVs. They felt that they had disposable income that was really not there to be disposable. So my favorite success stories would be those clients that we not only saved their house, but we empowered them to learn how to be financially savvy, and they exited our program with no debt, and some of them even had a savings.
That's remarkable. We will be right back with Rhonda in 2 minutes. I'm Christina Flach, and I'm too busy.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to I'm Too Busy, and we are chatting with Rhonda about all things financial today. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how you started getting involved with public speaking and how that kind of changed the direction of your business?
So I was always a speaker. I think I don't mind being heard. I think that's the biggest thing. Some people are always nervous, right? So I was always been a speaker. I was always very active in networking and business development. And by being a leader, it was easier to have people to do business, right? I hate to say it that way, but if you're the person that's in the corner and you're shy, people are not really gravitating towards you. So I just loved being a leader and I loved being a connector. So it was very easy to grab these opportunities and share my story about business or challenges and speak freely because life is not always perfect all the time. And I was asked to start doing some guest speaking at different chambers of commerce and different Rotary clubs, things that were more local. But it wasn't until I really got very active in a handful of business development groups on Long Island that they allowed me to speak. They were like, you need to speak. We want you on our board. We want you, out there front and center. So I was put in this role to kind of be, again, I use the word connector, but to also be a leader to these organizations. And, in that period of time, I also was working as an ambassador for a brand. They were called Response. And Response traveled all over the United States. And they were the company that if you listened to the radio or you had gotten an ad that said, learn how to flip properties using other people's money, right? You ever get those little things, our free seminar, right? So I was actually an ambassador to a company called Response. And then Response said, would you like to come out and share your experiences with other people that are interested in learning real estate? And so I actually worked with them for a handful of years and traveled, and they put me on what we refer to as big stage. So it went from me speaking to small groups of people, maybe 30 to 50 at a networking group, to maybe having one or two larger events where there was maybe, 200 people, to them saying, would you like to come out and speak, on behalf of our program and the value of what we're offering, to the people that come out and attend? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I could remember showing up like to the first event and there was like 1,500 people there. It was like a real stage.
Oh my gosh.
And you're like, I got this. And I can remember them I was behind in the green, in the green room, and you're behind stage and they're like, and you're up. And they're like, just like you would see at the Academy Awards, like they're pushing you up on stage. And I was like, I've arrived. This is fantastic. Like
You found your place.
I was like, I love this. So that was like my first taste of really being like, I could do this. And what would happen is, people would come up to me and say, your words inspired me. You were very authentic, because I was unscripted. So what would happen is I would then be asked to speak at other places and they'd say, well, we need your PowerPoint and you need this. And I'm like, no, I speak from the heart. I got this. You tell me how long I have to talk and I got this. And I started just going out unscripted. And the more unscripted I was, the more people would say to me, I really love your story. I love what you shared. And it was because I think more often than not, when you are out there, people want to know that they've heard something from you for the first time. They don't want to hear something that you've said 100 times. because it loses its meaning along the way. Even if it's their first time hearing it, some people will know the difference if it's that time that they say it's too scripted. So I
I
love just,
also think it's super impactful that you share and you're so open with the beginning of your career was pretty bumpy as a single mom with two little children.
yeah.
And I think it really resonates with people. It hasn't been like, oh, yeah, I went to Harvard and then I just started this career and it was just light. People like seeing that you've overcome obstacles, and they appreciate that honesty, because I think when people make things look so smooth, it's really hard to relate. And I think you're so incredibly relatable because of your transparency and honesty that a lot of people fail to have.
And I'll tell you, and I'm sure I could say this to you, and you would say that you understand completely. Um, Look, I'm not ugly and I'm not fat. Okay.
I can't.
So
Oh my God, I love you. And you have no filter, clearly.
zero filter. I'm so sorry. So that actually, as much as I will say that it does sometimes help that I'm, somewhat groomed, it also creates challenges because a lot of women don't like me. And then they're angry if I get attention. I will put it out there and I will say it 100 times. I am happily married and I don't want your man, right? But what happens is that, in business, everything's very cutthroat and people love to hate. So instead of learning how to collaborate with me, I have learned if I'll be in a room and again, I look, you're a beautiful woman. I know you understand this. I'll sometimes be in a room and because I'm confident, that's sexy. And other women will watch and they'll be like, ooh, I will walk right up to them and say, I'm so sorry. Have I offended you or do I know you? Because it looks like you might be uncomfortable. And I have to break them down. I'm not for everybody and that's okay. But for those that take the time to get to know me, I assure you that we'll get along. I love everybody. So, but
I'm
if that,
totally the same, and I get it. It's the weirdest thing that, and I think that's part of that, what I love about doing what I do with makeup with clients is getting people to be able to feel good about themselves and confident so that they're able to go out and speak in public without feeling like, oh my God, I've got bags under my eyes and I look exhausted. They're really focused on being genuine and conveying what their point. And I think that is very attractive. It's also very attractive someone that is confident, that isn't insecure, and is not ashamed of your success and hard work.
yeah.
Kudos to you. I think it's great. So, what do you think the biggest transformation you've seen with clients once they've gone through this program?
So I have the consumer side and I have the business side. And, so if you're on the consumer side, when somebody comes to me that feels that they are at a loss and they are in such a bad place financially, and we get to show them that there's light. And sometimes the conversations are difficult because I may have to say to a client on the consumer side, look, I think that you really need to file a bankruptcy. It's getting somebody to get over the stigma of being in a poor financial situation and allowing them to understand that, every day. I have a girlfriend, her name is Leah, and Leah says all the time, every day 1% better. Right. So
I love that.
right.
That's
So if
true.
you don't want to go big, right? It's just every day focus on something 1% better. And I think what happens is that for me, when clients engage with my company, whether they're dealing with me or dealing with one of my staff members, there's a certain level of accountability. And everybody needs an accountability partner, whether it is on the consumer side or the business side. And sometimes your family and your friends are not your accountability partner because oftentimes they don't want to see you succeed. This is why people go get coaches, right? So what happens is on the consumer side, when I can see somebody come through and they no longer have debt and their credit's improving and they can buy their first home, and I'm part of those milestones for them. I love that because I go, I did that, like that's my client, and it's a proud moment. And on the
It should
business,
be.
yeah, and on the business side, people can go out and get financing anytime, but when I have clients that come to me and they're business owners, it's allowing them to be expressive and to share their ideas and their problems. Because again, when you think about the business owner, they have so much responsibility, and it's usually not about themselves. It's also about their family. So it's no longer about, I have steady income. It's, I am the breadwinner. It is my responsibility. Things are failing. How do I have that conversation? How do I explain to my family that maybe this year we're not taking a vacation? And a lot of times, I have conversations with clients, and when I do public speaking about financial literacy, I do one usually every November, and it's to talk about the holidays. And we will meet with a team, usually in a group, in November, and then we meet again in February. And the lesson is, how much do you spend on your children? Is it necessary for you to spend that? And is there an alternative to their wish list? Parents feel that my children will not love me if I do not buy them the things that they want on their list. So the lesson is to help these parents who are having financial challenges look at alternatives during the holiday season. And then we meet again in February, and I ask them, do you think your kids remembered what was on their list? Because you
I
have to.
love that.
Does that make sense? You have to think
It
about
does. It's fantastic.
the
It's
financial
true.
stress. Are you paying your rent or your mortgage, or are you going to go buy UGG boots? Are you going to pay your car payment, or are you going to buy, a new laptop? So it's looking at alternatives and teaching, their children and how to have open communication. And as somebody that's a business owner, it's challenging enough to be responsible to everything at all times, including your staff and your employees. But imagine now being responsible to your family and feeling like a failure. So a lot of things that we speak about are alternatives and, workarounds, right?
I love this. Rhonda, we will be back in 2 minutes. I'm Christina Flach, and I'm too busy.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Welcome back to I'm Too Busy. I'm Christina Flach, and we're chatting with Rhonda Kich. All right, my friend, we're going to chat a little bit about you.
Let's do
Where's your
it.
happy place?
Um, so I'm a secret dork, and I'm a country girl. So right now, we're actually doing this show, and I have several residences upstate New York. So I'm actually at my log cabin right now, and about 2 months ago, I moved my hobby farm up here. So my happy place is where I am. Unfortunately, my family's not with me right now. I needed me time. So my
Good for
family's
you.
not right this minute, but my animals are here. So that's my happy
Oh,
place.
that's great. What do you do when your day is just not flowing?
Sometimes, and I do tell this to clients as well, if you're off, everybody will know you're off. So putting out your best A game is really important. So if you're not off, sometimes you need to just refuel, recharge, and start fresh the next day. So when I'm off and I know I'm off, look, call it for what it is. I'm going to be 52 any minute. So I have some hormonal things going on right now. So there are times that I can catch myself being like, oh, I am super fiery right now. So I need to just excuse myself before, I blow something up. So even for me, like you have to just walk away, and sometimes you just need to have your own time and just reset.
So what do you exercise every day? What's your diet like? What do you do to feel like the best version of you?
I sleep,
Isn't
honestly.
it huge? Isn't it the biggest thing?
I have friends that can get away with 3 hours of sleep. I need 7 to 8. I don't know how else to explain it. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a smoker. I don't stay up late. I'm the girl that gets up early. I go to bed early. Um, I have a lot of challenges when I'm traveling for work and we go to the West Coast because of the time zone difference. I just can't do it. My body does not, it just has a very difficult time staying awake. So for me, I love my sleep. That's my go-to. So if I can lay down and I can rest, if you catch me on a cold winter day, I might binge watch something. And that's like a big thing for me because
What are you binge watching right now?
nothing right this minute. But you know what I'm hooked on right now?
Tell me. I
Documentaries.
want to know.
Documentaries. I feel like if I'm going to spend my time, I should spend my time having somewhat of an experience. So I've
I
been
love
hooked
that.
on all these documentaries, um, and some of these stories are really empowering. And when you watch them and you get to really see the full spectrum of what happens or the behind the scenes, it really does give you a different way of looking at life. Sometimes you go, wow, you think that this was a bad guy. I just watched one called I Killed My Father. And when you watch, it's really good. You should probably, not only was it fantastic, I reached out to the lawyer that handled it and he's going to be a guest on my show.
Of
Um,
course you did.
I literally reached out to him on Instagram. I was like, I have to tell you, I have no words. Like, and I'm not a super emotional person. But I watched that. I couldn't unglue myself from this documentary. And I literally sobbed at the end because
Oh my God.
like, I've watched several of those. And wow, because it could just be as easy as it happening to you or I, or to somebody that we know. So binge watching my documentaries.
Okay. What are you doing for workouts these days?
Don't kill me because I know you got a lot of health stuff going on, meaning like you love to talk about, your good
I'm
juju.
all about, I love all my woo woo and wellness
Yeah.
and good health.
This body is not a body in motion. It literally gets up. My exercise is getting out of my bed to my kitchen. And, I do arm all day with my cup of coffee and my bottle of water. I really don't exercise. I know it's horrible and I get yelled at all the time. And I just don't. If I have time to myself, I literally, if I have time for myself, I'm watching TV or I'm literally I'm journaling and I'm writing down things. So a lot of things for me is not about balance in my body, but it's about balance in my mind. I know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
But
we've
everybody's
got to
like,
get
"Don't
you
you
to.
exercise? Don't you do this?" And I'm like, oh, mentally I exercise every day. I think I'm a rock star, but the reality is that I'm not.
Oh my gosh.
I walk back and forth to my barn
That's exercise. So
a little
don't
bit.
knock it. I think just keeping movement. Did you see that I don't know if you've seen this documentary, but it's called about the blue zones. Did you see that?
I did. I did see
Wasn't
it.
that fascinating?
It's very interesting for those that are watching. The blue zones are different parts of the world that people have different levels of longevity. I'm not a bad eater, so I think that helps. But the blue zone it's very interesting because, again, it just goes to show you that based upon where you are located, you could live a very long, natural, and healthy life without having all of it. But, keep away from the preservatives.
And keep moving.
Keep
Keeping
moving.
moving is a big, big deal. When people get, sedentary and sitting in their chair and not moving, your body just basically rots. So it's really important. Where do you see your life in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I'm on a journey to build 5 businesses so that when upon my passing, um, I don't want to leave my kids money. I want to leave them opportunity. So right now I've been on a journey to build 5 successful businesses so that each one of my kids can have that would be my legacy, right? That I would leave behind for them. And so in the next 5 years, I can just see me continuing to grow on my portfolio. But more or less, I love the country life. So I wouldn't say that I'm stuck upstate New York or in New York in general, but I don't think I could ever give up working. It's just something that's within me. And I think that as long as I follow whatever I want to do, I will be happy. But in 5 years from now, I'm still happily married and maybe with grandkids. Like that would be like fantastic for me. I want to be an awesome grandma.
Oh my God, that's so great. I want to thank you so much for being on my show today. You have inspired me. You've inspired so many people. What are your last thoughts that you want to share with our listeners?
I think if you are somebody, whether you have a business or you're a consumer, if there's any financial challenges, speak openly, look for the right people, watch who you share your information with. Not everybody's your friend. Find a trusted source. And when in doubt, you could always reach out to me. We give free advice all the time.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. I am so grateful that I got to spend part of
Yeah.
my day twice today with you. I am so excited to have you as a new friend.
Yeah.
I know. It's so great. Thank you again. I'm Christina Flach. I'm too busy, and I'll see you next week.
This has been I'm Too Busy with host Christina Flach. Tune in each week as Christina approaches the concept of success holistically, recognizing that achievement is not solely measured by financial triumphs, but also by maintaining a healthy work-life balance and focusing on self-care. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.